Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff?
Yep.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm still very coughing lately.
Yeah.
But it's October, and I'm about to go on vacation.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, tomorrow morning, we are hopping in the car and driving out to Georgia. So
cool.
It's going to be a long drive, but it's going to be a fun trip, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, you're going to be listening to a lot of podcasts on the road.
Oh,
then.
my goodness. Yes, I am.
Uh-huh.
We were talking about this before the episode, but I recently figured out the math that pretty soon, if I'm not there already, pretty soon I will have listened to probably about 10,000 hours worth of podcasts.
Jeez. And
10,000 hours.
And this is within like the last few years?
Within the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Roughly, yeah.
Sure.
It's crazy. Like I had listened to some podcasts before that, but it's been, with my current job, it's really been, that's when I listen to more podcasts than if I was paid to listen to podcasts.
Right. Wait, didn't you figure out like if you're technically considered a master at something if you've spent
10,000 hours
at it?
So if I'm not already, I'm very close to being a master of podcast listening.
Yeah, he is a master at podcast listening. You should put that on like a business card or something.
I should, yeah.
It's like, or you could be a podcast critic.
I could. The thing is, though, like I don't know if I'd be a very good critic of pretty much anything because I tend to have a fairly narrow scope of interests.
Okay.
And sure, like within a given field, like within if the topic was like gaming related podcasts, well, sure, but
gaming or movies or shows,
yeah,
I guess. Like anything media related, I feel like you could still apply that.
Yeah,
but
I don't know, maybe. Yeah. So we actually just finished recording our Patreon bonus episode for this month, which, if you're a patron of $5 or more, you will have already gotten it by the time this episode goes out.
Yeah.
But we did another one of those. They're called parsley games. Mm-hmm. They're like these little sort of like text adventures, but
yeah, delicious parsley.
Yes. Well, because you have to parse your actions.
Right.
So, we did one of those for a bonus episode a few months ago, and I decided to do another one because I had one that was very explicitly Halloween themed.
Right.
And you did very well.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't necessarily get everything.
Not a perfect score, although maybe the game was rigged.
I agree. I think it was rigged as well.
But I think I got the highest score. Well, almost the highest score I could have.
Sure. So I had a lot of fun with that. Hopefully you had a lot of fun with that too. Hopefully our listeners have a lot of fun listening to that. Yeah. And all you have to do to listen to those is go and become a $5 or more patron. Right. And I'll put it in the show notes, but the guy who made these parsley games, he actually replied to our on our blog, like on InterPartyConflict.com. He replied the last time we did one of those. I put a link to it in the show notes. He replied to it and he said, "Hey, we're going to be coming out with a physical copy of that because right now I just have them on PDF." Huh. So I'll put the link to the physical form of that in the show notes.
Did you mention to him that we were doing it or something? Or?
No. I think with certain like analytics, you can see like where some of your traffic is coming from. Sure. Maybe a few people saw that on there and,
mention it.
Or went to his site from our site and he noticed, oh, I got some traffic from InterPartyConflict.com. And then he came over and saw that we had mentioned it. Well, cool. I don't know.
And anyway, that's cool.
Maybe he's a listener.
Gasp.
I mean, that would be really cool.
I like how I gasped and then said gasp.
Good job. All right. You want to go ahead and get into this episode?
Yeah, sure. Let's get going.
Okay. I want you to imagine, Jeff, that you're out trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
You've probably got a little bit of experience over the last hour doing this. And I'll say you're dressed up as a spooky witch.
Yes.
You've got a magic broom. You've got a hat.
Flying around on that broom.
Well, so you go up to this one house, and this house looks more like a mountain than a house. Okay. But it's still, they've got their front light on. There's like a little mailbox out front. Uh-huh. And the mailbox says Mr. Drake on it. All right. So you walk up there, and there's a closed door. Okay. What do you do?
I'll ring the doorbell and say trick or treat.
So you ring the doorbell, and after a moment or so, a 30-foot tall red dragon shows up at the door, and it sees you, and like smoke billows from its nose. And you say trick or treat, and he picks up his little spectacles and puts his spectacles in front of his eyes, and he says in his booming voice,
"Oh, fresh meat. You want candy?
Yes, candy, please.
Aren't you a cute little witch?"
Anyway, I guess he was waiting for a response.
Okay.
And then he says to you,
"Let me go get some candy from the dragon's hoard."
all right, so our item for this week was submitted by Sanphobia79 via email, and the item is called the Throwing Needles of Restraint. So like you go to throw it at someone, and then you're like,
I really just shouldn't.
I really shouldn't. Yeah. No, that's not what it is. This is a magical weapon. It appears as a black pouch that gives off a purple glow. And inside the pouch are 5 long needles that are white in color. The needles themselves are very sharp, lightweight, and very balanced. They're perfect for throwing at things that need a lesson taught to them. When a player throws a needle and hits the target, the needle itself turns into one of 8 different types that all have different effects. Needles refill in the bag after a long rest. So you get 5 shots with it. Mm-hmm. Each one does something different. And then after a long rest, you get those 5 back.
Okay.
They have a thrown range of 20, 60. So like 20 feet without disadvantage, 60 feet with disadvantage. And they deal a d4 piercing damage on a hit, plus the random effect. So you roll a d8 on the following list. Number 1, the effect is a numbing needle. The target has disadvantage on all attacks, they fall prone, and they are immobilized for 1 round.
Oh.
So, all of these are kind of a big deal, I would say. This is a fairly powerful magic item. So they have disadvantage on attacks, they fall prone, and they're immobilized for a round. Number 2, Sleeping Needle. The target is put to sleep for 1 round or until they take damage. Even if the target wakes up, all attacks have advantage against them for 1 round.
Okay.
So you put them to sleep. Mm-hmm. Even if they wake up, they're still a little bit groggy, so you can still attack them with advantage.
Okay.
Next up is Acid Needle. You throw the needle and acid sprays on the target, dealing an additional 2d6 damage. Additionally, they are blinded for 1 round, so that acid gets in their eyes.
Sprays in their face.
Exactly, or just fumes or something. Next up is the Hallucinogen Needle.
Ooh.
The target takes 1d4 psychic damage and has disadvantage on attack rolls for one round. Also, they must spend their reaction to run away 20 feet, running in fear.
Okay.
So you hit them, they take damage, they freak out, and they run away, possibly provoking your attack's opportunity.
Okay.
The next up is Nerve Needle. The target takes an additional 1d8 fire damage and is incapacitated for 1 round. So maybe with this one, I'm kind of picturing you throw it, it like hits them right in that perfect nerve.
Sure.
They feel like their body is burning, and they just can't do anything.
Okay. So like a little pressure point thing.
Yeah, something like that. Next up, we have the Frost Needle. The target takes 1d8 cold damage and is immobilized for 1 round, or until it is hit with a melee attack or takes fire damage. So they kind of get frozen in place. Mm-hmm. If you hit them, it like breaks the ice or whatever, or if they get hit by fire, they're no longer frozen.
Yeah, or if you like have like a story to tell or something, to kind of break the ice.
Oh no. Good job, Jeff.
Like a little interesting anecdote or something like that.
No, I get it. I get it.
Right.
That's pretty good. Number 7 is the Bee Needle. This needle, when you throw it, shoots out 20 smaller needles.
Oh.
Dealing an additional 2d6 piercing damage and pinning the target to the wall or floor, immobilizing them for 1 round unless they can make a DC 12 strength save.
Oh, well.
So you throw it, it splits into like I was about to say 1,000, but it's not 1,000. It is explicitly 20. Splits it into 20 smaller needles that then just like pins them to the wall.
Right, yeah, like it pins like their collar and stuff. Like
yes, exactly. I did a little bit of tweaking to this. Like mainly I changed some of the terminology from when Saintphobia sent this to me. I almost think it would have been cool if with this one they shot in like other directions, like they hit other people too. But I don't know. I wasn't sure if that was going a bit too far from what Saintphobia intended. And then the final one, the Blood Needle. This needle deals 2d6 necrotic damage to the target, and that amount is given to the attacker as temporary hit points.
Cool.
Additionally, the target must make a DC 10 Constitution save, or the damage will continue again the following round.
Oh.
So, like, you hit them, it drains blood from them, and then it might drain blood for them for 2 rounds instead of just 1.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
There are 8 effects. Each one is, pretty unique in its own way. They're mainly about dealing damage.
Yeah, but then like a little status effect, you know.
But, I think they're pretty cool. I think each one is different enough. I think this would be an interesting thing to throw in there. And you only get 5 per long rest. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's not that powerful. So it's not too powerful is what I mean.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty useful. You can easily give this to somebody who, like, I don't know, like, is it a normal throwing weapon?
Yeah, it's basically just like a dart or something.
Okay, it functions similar to the dart. So yeah, I guess maybe you give it to like a fighter or somebody who doesn't have any like ranged weapons or something that. Something that they can toss in there, has a little added status effect.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. And the theme is kind of neat. It's like punishing needles. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's kind of neat.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty cool. I like how the magic item is actually the bag, the pouch that the needles come from.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
it's all like dark and glowy. Oh yeah.
I'm wondering if it would be better or worse to let the owner know which needle they have before they throw it. Like, if at the beginning of the day they look in the bag and there's a sleeping needle, a blood needle, a nerve needle, and 2 numbing needles. Is that better or worse than if it is just random every time you use it?
Sure. I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I feel like the effects aren't like, none of them are like too crazy different.
Yeah.
That I feel like if you knew it wouldn't really be that big of a deal to know it.
Sure.
But it'd also be fun not knowing, I guess.
Maybe. I'm picturing, like, we talked about Hawkeye last week. I think. I'm picturing, like, Hawkeye, at least in the first Avengers movie, he's got, like, all these different arrows that each do specific things, and then he uses them, like, to that arrow's advantage.
Right.
Like, there's one time when he shoots an arrow at Loki, and Loki catches it.
Right.
But then
it explodes.
He planned for that because this was an exploding arrow, and now that he's holding it in his hand, it explodes in his face. I thought that was really clever. I'm wondering if it would be better to let you know what they are before you use them so you can plan out things like that.
Sure.
Like, that enemy is really aggressive, so you might want to hit him with the hallucinogen needle so that it runs away. Or that, like, there's an enemy that is really mobile, so you might want to use, like, the bee needle on them or something to, like, pin them against the wall or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it would make a huge difference either way, but if I were to use this, I would probably do that.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Horde today. If anybody wanted to submit magic items for us for the Dragon's Horde, or if they have questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, Jeff, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at InterPartyConflict@gmail.com.
Before we go any further, we have a giveaway today. We are giving away a copy of Goblin Stone's Chapel on the Cliffs. It is a low-level adventure for 5th edition D&D. So, Jeff, for today, who is our winner?
Our winner today is Adam G.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Adam G. Hopefully you'll like this adventure. Whether you like it or not, I recommend that you go to goblinstone.com, let them know what you thought. That way they can make the best products possible. If you liked it, let them know what you liked. If you didn't like it, let them know what you didn't like. And if somebody wanted to enter this drawing, because we do this drawing every week, Jeff, how would they enter the drawing?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with the subject line, Chapel on the Cliffs.
Yes. All right. And then I'm going to tell everybody about our Patreon. Patreon, as we mentioned earlier, is it's a little service where you can pledge to pay a certain amount of money per month, $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, anything in between. And then you'll help out the show be as good as it can be. And then in return, to say thank you, you get cool bonus stuff, such as this bonus episode that we just recorded. It's about an hour long.
Yep.
You get to listen to Jeff explore Pumpkin Town,
right?
I think it was called.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. We've got different episodes on different topics. We've also got, every month we do a patron-only Roll20 game that this month, I believe Jeff is going to be running.
Yeah.
Have you ever run a game of D&D, Jeff? I know you were writing one to run for Skylar's group.
Right. Not really, no.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like I've played a lot of D&D. I've never really officially run.
Yeah.
Like I've run some like adventures where it's like just me and Steve or something like that.
Sure.
Where so I'm like running him through a thing, but I've never ran an adventure before, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It could be terrible, but we'll see.
Well, I'm pretty sure I'll be there just in case you need help or anything like that. So if you're a $10 patron, you can take part in that. Also, every month I release fantasy fiction that it's available to all of our patrons no matter how much you give. However, if you are a $10 patron or more, I will write about your character.
Ooh.
So check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got some cool rewards on there. We've got, a few different things. So check it out. If you liked hearing us talk and you want to help us make the show even better, go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict and check that out.
Right.
Also, head over to Crit Academy at critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Brandon, they make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. I just took part in one of their Patreon rewards today. They have every month they do like a little hangout on the internet with their patrons. They talk. Justin brings in a few topics to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Like he talks about like stuff they're planning on doing with the Patreon and so on. So that was really cool. I've never actually been there for any of those. I always just miss them. But
sure.
It was cool. I got to take part in that.
Nice.
Also, you guys should check out D&D Character Lab. It's a very, very fun podcast where Garrett and Dan, they make characters and then debate whose character is better. And within the next couple weeks, you might hear some familiar faces, is what I was going to say on that podcast. If you know what people's faces sound like.
Right.
Maybe.
The sound of a face.
Yes.
I'll never forget it.
So check them out, D&D Character Lab. They're great. I guess you want to go ahead and get into some questions, Jeff?
Sure, let's do it.
Cool.
Our first question comes from Preston Penguin on Discord. What is your opinion on passing notes during the game? And also, what was the best note you ever passed?
Yeah, so I feel like we've probably talked about this on the show at some point before. We never actually had a question about it, but when Preston asked this question, and specifically it was like, what was the best note you passed? I immediately was like, oh, I know what the best note is I ever passed. And I'm sure Jeff knows about it too.
Yes, I know it. I know it very well.
Yes. Would you like to say what was happening?
Well, I can't remember I can never remember the exact circumstance, but I think two other members in the group were passing notes.
Yeah.
As a reaction to that, Gabe passed me a note. Mm-hmm. And on the note, I think it just said to laugh.
Yeah. Well, I'll do this little thing sometimes where if, people have their own little secret little messages between one another, I'll pick somebody else and I'll just be like, hey, act like I said something really funny. So that the other people will think that, oh, well, Lee didn't let us in on it. Well, we won't let you in on this.
Yeah.
So I just sent you a note that said like, laugh at this or
right,
something.
Yeah. So I laughed at it and then they were immediately like, wait, what did it say? And so I crumpled it up and stuffed it into my mouth.
Yeah.
So
you I don't think you swallowed it, but you pretended to eat the note.
Yeah.
To keep them from
seeing what it was.
And of course it was nothing. It was not. It was not anything worthwhile.
Yeah. So when I saw this question submitted, I was like, I immediately remembered the taste of paper.
Yep.
So but all right, so that's that answers that. But as far as passing notes, I feel like it's fine.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I mean, of course, if it happens too much, I guess if people are spending more time passing
and
notes
reading notes
than playing the game, I guess that's a problem. But
yeah,
so many things would have to be lined up for that to be at that point where it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, like. The only downside I can really see on it is like if the DM passes a note to a player, then all the other players are immediately like, oh, okay, he's possessed now or something.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
It adds suspicion because it's like, what can he tell the rest of us?
Sure. There is some tact that has to be used when a DM is going to be passing notes with a player. One idea, I don't know how much I've actually used it, but like you could pass around fake notes.
Yeah.
So that if a player receives a note that says like, hey, how are you doing today? Mm-hmm. Then the other players might think, oh no, he just got like a secret message or something. But then that player might be like, the heck did he pass me this for? And he passes it back. And then somebody else gets a note too. And he's like, oh, he just passed them the same note.
Right. Yeah. You
can sort of throw them off by giving out fake notes. Then the players don't know what's the real note, what isn't.
Yeah. So like you just kind of like every once in a while you just hand somebody a note. It's like, do you like me, YN?
Yes. But really, it's going to come down to like how much are you going to be conveying through notes?
Right.
Eventually, unless you're just doing like a quick, short little thing, in a lot of the time I find that notes end up being more trouble than they're worth. I love using them. I think the idea of using them is great. No issues with that whatsoever. But let's say one of the players says, like, the party's going that way, I'm going to sneak off this way. You could kind of do that through notes, but then what if there's something really long and involved down that way that the player's sneaking off to? You're going to have to write out so much. And I don't know, we talked about not splitting the party a long time ago, or at least the downsize is splitting the party.
Yeah.
To an extent, that's what passing notes is. Their characters might still be together, but it is the DM having to split up their attention between the party and then this one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's best to use for like really small things, but you can definitely have some fun with it. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think if it gets too complicated, then it's like you got to like take them in the other room or something like that.
Sure. And I mean, sometimes you just got to do that. I think it would probably be better just to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Than to, like drag it out through notes or whatever. But
if everybody's got smartphones with them, maybe do texting and stuff like that.
That's a really good point. I should probably preface this by saying that I don't have a smartphone. Right. I am a caveman in that regard, so that is why my mind goes to notes.
Sure.
Immediately instead of smartphones.
You could have some form of text messaging or some sort of messenger app or something that you can use for this sort of thing. Maybe one that doesn't make a noise, so like always know, everybody else doesn't always know when it's happening, or it's like, or you can just be like, oh no, that was a text from my mom, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, or like the DM would like message them, and it's like, you are now being possessed by the vampire. Love, Mom.
Right.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
I guess this does kind of bring up the bigger question of like, Jeff, what are your thoughts on keeping a secret from the group? Just in general.
Sure. Like, so keeping a secret, like a player keeping a secret from the rest of the group?
I guess, or the DM keeping a secret from the rest of the group. Either one.
Sure.
Kind of a broad topic, I know, but
yeah, it's like, it kind of really depends, I guess. Like if it's a player keeping secrets from other players, I don't know. I really don't know. Like I feel like that does kind of depend. Secrets don't make friends.
Sure. It's a tricky subject. I remember a long time ago, I want to say there was an episode of the Hardy Dice Friends where they were talking about how they thought that, and I hope I might be completely wrong about this, so don't like quote them or quote me quoting them. But I want to say that there was something they said along the lines of like, any sort of a secret, even if it's like a plot twist, doesn't really work in a role-playing game. I feel like they said some sort of a bold statement to that effect. Again, if that's not what they said, I apologize. But it got me wondering, do secrets work in T&D?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe sometimes not. I think it really is going to depend a lot on what it is and who's involved in it, and also like the maturity of the players, the players' ability to keep in-game knowledge keep out-of-game knowledge out of their roleplay and so on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love secrets, though. I love when there are little secrets that not everybody knows. I love that moment of reveal.
Sure.
But sometimes I'm sure it's not worth the trouble.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are going to be times where keeping the secret is going to strain, credulity so much more than just telling the players and then telling them not to use it in game.
Yeah. Although it's very hard not to use,
That's true.
Meta knowledge, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. But no, I love notes. I love passing notes. I mean, if it happened more, I probably wouldn't love it. But like, it's always such a rare thing. But when it does happen, it's just I love it. Those are some of my favorite moments of D&D. There was I'm sure I mentioned this a long time ago on the show, but there was a gaming table.
Oh yeah,
I encountered a long time ago where the way it was set up was each player had like a little cubby that was like, it was a tabletop in front of them that had like little walls on the sides, and then the game board was like above that. So they had a little personal section that was just for them. And then each section had a hole that was like hooked up to like a little track where the DM could put a note in a little metal ball and then roll it specifically to that player.
Yeah.
Now, unless you did a little bit of clever engineering with the sound and everything, it would probably be pretty obvious when somebody got one of those.
Right.
But all you know is that one of the players got a note. You don't know what was in it.
Or maybe it's nothing at all. It's
nothing at all.
It's just an empty ball.
Exactly. Exactly. So So yeah,
like a piece of candy, like a now and later.
Sure. Or some jawbreakers.
Oh.
Or some pixie dust, which apparently is what they called that candy. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting into our bonus episode. So there's ways to do it to kind of trick your players into not realizing it's happening. But I don't know. You're probably better off just, they're going to know that somebody got a note, but trust your players not to
right. It's what's more risky, having your players know the thing and like hoping that they don't use that knowledge,
sure,
or have the players know that something's going on but they don't know what.
Yeah
I feel like that can almost be just as bad, because like when a player knows there's something they're missing, they're going to try every option. So they're going to spend a way more time in a room than they were they were really meant to, or like spend like a ton of time on a thing that isn't going to go anywhere because that's not what the note was about.
Yeah.
So
just to answer the question again, I love passing notes. Mm-hmm. I think it's great. Don't overuse it, of course, but I think it's great.
Yeah. Our next question comes from Fingers Fate on Facebook. Can you suggest any ways other than defeating all the enemies to make combat encounters more diverse? Rescuing a hostage, escaping a trap, keeping a rope bridge intact, stuff like that. What were some of your favorite encounters where the goal was not to just destroy everything?
Yeah. Okay. Disclaimer about this question. We've had this question for a while.
Sure.
Many times we have put this into our little list of questions that we're going to go into the episode, and every time we're like, geez, I don't have anything good for this one. I just don't know. Because it's a great question. I think that there's great potential in making an encounter that's not just about killing all the monsters, but I haven't played a ton of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In general, I am more a fan of the exploration aspect of D&D. Like, of the three, exploration, combat, and role-playing, I would say exploration is probably my favorite one.
Yeah.
So, I do enjoy combat, but like, if there was a combat that was more about exploration while combat was going on, that would be great. I just can't think of many opportunities or many examples where I actually took part in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing that does come to mind is the game Final Fantasy Tactics. I know it's not a tabletop game, but it's a video game that is very much like a tabletop game in how you play it.
Right, yeah. If you've ever played it, like D&D miniatures, where it was basically just the combat with the miniatures and the grid and stuff like that, it's a turn-based, action game or whatever.
Right. There were a few times in Final Fantasy Tactics, a few encounters where, your ultimate goal was to kill all the enemies, I guess, but there was something that you could do that either made the battle easier, or I guess in one case there actually was, the goal was not to kill the enemies. If you kill all the enemies, nothing happened. One encounter that I'll say is that the goal of the encounter was to open the floodgates for this, basically open up this dam to like flood this area or something to cut off the enemy troops or something. I don't remember. But in that encounter, there are enemies that you can fight, but there are enemies that are standing on these switches. And the goal of the battle is to get to those switches, kill the enemies that are standing on them, and then activate the switches. So that's like the one encounter in the game where killing all the enemies doesn't actually do anything. Like, the battle will keep going even when there's no enemies. The fact that that is your goal during the battle is interesting, because I feel like the encounter could be really hard. They could purposely make the encounter harder than it should be, because it's not about killing the enemies.
Yeah.
You can complete your goal a couple rounds in if you know what you're doing. So I think that like it gives the creator of the encounter a little bit more leeway to make the encounter deadlier than they would have thought. Another encounter in that same game that I think is noteworthy is there's an encounter where the goal is to kill all the bad guys, but the party is on one side of this wall, except for the main character who is on the other side of this wall. Like, he was inside a castle. He's trying to open the gate to let in the rest of the party. There's a very powerful bad guy on the inside of the castle with him, and then there's a bunch of other enemies outside the castle with the rest of the party. So while the fight's going on, you've got your party outside that are fighting all these, spellcasters and knights and so on and so on. And then you've got your main character inside the castle that's just trying to get to the switch to open the door. But then while he's doing that, he's got this really powerful bad guy that's chasing after him and trying to stop him from doing that. I think that could work really interestingly in D&D.
Yeah.
If you do split the party, kind of going back with like what we're talking about last encounter, if one member of the group does go off and do their own thing, have an encounter happen, and now the party has to reunite or else they're going to lose the encounter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at that point, I wouldn't necessarily say you need to keep doing it through notes. You can just tell everybody what's happening. But,
yeah, once everybody's in basically the same encounter, it's just it's like an encounter that's on two fronts, but it's the same encounter. Like, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So just like having to activate a switch or open a door or something like that, it immediately makes an encounter more difficult and interesting at the same time. Because you have to think, well, is me killing this bad guy going to get me to my goal faster than opening this door? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Another thing, and this is another video game example, but anytime I have an encounter in a video game, I feel like if my goal is just to kill the bad guy, it's always over too quick. But because I'm so familiar with the Final Fantasy games, bosses often have really good gear that you can steal.
Sure.
Once I know that I can steal really good gear from a bad guy, an easy encounter immediately becomes a nerve-wracking, like, how do I weaken him but not kill him and also keep my people alive while I steal from him so that eventually I can kill him?
Right.
Now, in D&D, that's a little hard to do because generally speaking, if you kill someone in D&D, you can take all their stuff.
Right, yeah, they don't disappear,
exactly.
into red polygons or whatever.
Right. So if you want to try and make an encounter where the goal isn't just to kill the enemies, you have to make killing the enemies not an option somehow or another.
Yeah.
Some ways that you can do this. They get attacked by town guards. They can't kill the town guards. If they do, I mean, they can, but if they do, there's going to be much bigger consequences than whatever it was they were being attacked for in the first place. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding, and if they start killing guards, it's going to make it look very suspicious that they weren't robbing that bank or whatever.
Right.
So you could make the enemies, someone that the players have reason not to kill. You could also have it be that the enemies are brainwashed civilians or something like that. Or like there's an enemy that is, mentally controlling civilians, or maybe like they're controlling a party member's sister or brother or child or something like that.
This is basically like a hostage in a way.
Yeah.
You want this to be somebody that the players will actually care not to kill.
Right.
Because a lot of groups will just be like, whatever, we'll just kill them. They're just NPCs. Who cares?
Right.
But yeah, you want to make sure that like them getting their reward is, it rests solely on that character still being alive.
Sure. So anytime that you have to keep someone alive, and this question that Finger's Fate gave us does give a few examples. They're all good examples.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Rescuing a hostage, like that's a great example when the players have to use different tactics than they would normally use. You can't just throw a fireball in there when one of the people in the battle is like the princess. You know what I mean? Who's been kidnapped by these bandits. Sure, you want to kill the bandits, but even if she survives getting hit by a fireball, the king is not going to be happy that you fireballed his daughter.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't mean that as a euphemism, but it could also be a euphemism.
Oh, goodness.
So if there is a hostage...
Yeah, you don't want to go on a hot date with her.
There you go. I can't even give you crap about that one because that was better than what I said. Escaping a trap is an interesting one too, because a lot of people, when they run a game, don't think that like, oh, I could be combining traps with combat.
Sure.
If there is a pit trap and there's no combat going on, okay, well, we just jump over the pit trap, or we'll just sit around and wait for the rogue to, jam the mechanism or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a trap that's going on while bad guys are shooting at you, or like you set off a trap and the noise of the trap brings enemies in,
right,
that immediately makes the encounter more interesting. It makes it more tense. Keeping a rope bridge intact, I think, is a really interesting one too, because you kind of have to have a couple players that are purposely not fighting. They're just using their action to hold the bridge or something like that while everybody gets across the bridge or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a little hard to do, though, because then you're kind of telling one player, well, you don't get to participate in this battle.
Yeah, yeah.
That could be unfun, So, I don't know. I wish I had more interesting encounters that I can draw from. I'm sure there have been a few, but I don't know. Ever since we got this question, I've always blanked on what are some encounters that I've actually played in. You know what I mean?
Something that came up into my mind was... something along the lines of Simon Says.
Okay.
And I was like I'm just kind of racking my brain how you would implement that in a game. And I was thinking like, okay, like Simon Says, but like it's a specific order that you need to kill these enemies or something like that. And like there might be clues as to which one's which, or like in Ocarina of Time, there's the 2-3-1.
Oh yeah, sure.
Thing. It's like, it's like the guy you find earlier on says, "Oh, the secret code is 2-3-1," and you're like, "Okay, what is that going to be?" But then you come across these 3 enemies that, like, when you don't they don't die when you hit them, they just kind of get frozen, and then if you hit all 3 of them, then they kind of come back, and it's like, oh, okay, you have to hit them 2, 3, and 1. So I was thinking, like, okay, there's a zombie in the room, and there are like 4 passageways or like 4 archways or something like that. And whenever you kill a zombie, it comes back to life.
Okay.
And you have to like kill the zombie under each archway in a certain order or something like that. I don't know. Something along those lines where you're like, you have one enemy that doesn't pose a huge threat because it's just a zombie.
Yeah.
But it will not die, and you like maybe can't, and you have no other way of progressing the dungeon or something like that. So like you have to figure out like, okay, we need to do something with the zombie. So you're like standing around like trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing while you're like whacking at a zombie every time it comes back up,
Sure. Well, here's a suggestion. If you want to make your encounters less about killing the enemy, and I mean, it's a little ironic because this is ultimately about killing the enemy, but if you can use monsters that are, like you were saying, either number 1, unkillable, or number 2, way too powerful for the players to beat.
Right.
Now that's tricky to do because of how much reliant on the dice you are.
Yeah.
You don't want the bad guy to get a lucky hit and then just one-shot one of the PCs while they're trying to be solving this puzzle or whatever.
Right. Maybe make it so like it can only attack them in certain conditions.
Sure.
Like there's like very easy cover to hide behind, but there's objectives that are outside of, that are out in the open. So
sure. Because I was just thinking like, kind of like what you were saying, if there is an unkillable monster in this room, or several unkillable monsters in this room, and then the players have to solve a puzzle, and by solving that puzzle, it kills the monster.
Yeah.
Such as, let's say there are 3, not necessarily zombies, let's say something that could actually be scary to them, like trolls. There are 3 trolls that are immune to fire and acid or whatever. So, like, you knock them to 0 hit points, they're gonna come back. No matter what you do, they're gonna come back. However, if you kill number 2, then you kill number 3, and then you kill number 1, they'll stay dead.
Right.
Or something like that. Even in that case, you are still, the end goal is still just killing the monsters, but it's more than just a fight. The players do have to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm playing through Majora's Mask, speaking of Zelda, Majora's Mask on the 3DS that you let me borrow. And there is, there's a whole lot of stuff in that like this, but there's an encounter where you're fighting these skeletons. And anytime you kill them, they fall into a pile of bones for a little bit, but then a few seconds later, they get back up. Well, you can shoot out the windows in this room so that the sunlight is coming in. And anytime they like step in the sunlight, they like catch fire. Yeah. So they try to stay out of the sunlight. The trick is you have to knock them down so they're a pile of bones. While they're doing that, use your shield to reflect the sunlight. If you reflect it at them while they're still standing, they'll just hold up their shield and block it. But you knock them unconscious, shine the light on them, and then they catch fire, and then they're gone.
Right.
I think that is an interesting idea. You could translate that into D&D, but you will have to change up a little bit of D&D's mechanics. You take out any sort of instant kill, basically take out hit points altogether, or make 0 hit points not be death.
Right.
For certain things.
Yeah.
So you have to tweak the rules a little bit, but I don't think anybody's going to be upset because you are ultimately making the encounter more interesting. Now, if the players don't get it, be patient with them because this is not something that happens in D&D a lot.
Yeah.
But try it out. Try it out with something that is low stakes. Try it with some zombies, like what Jeff was saying. Yeah. Because if it is a weak monster, even just like show them this is something that can happen, and then later in the dungeon, do it with something more powerful.
Yeah, yeah. Like have the zombie have some sort of identifying feature that like shows up on other things too, and they're like, oh, okay, this is one of those invulnerable things that we have to do something with.
Like you could have it be that, they're going into a tomb where all of the undead in this tomb were said to be like unkillable or whatever. And then whenever they fight one of them, they have these like this glowing symbol on their forehead or something like that. And then like it's an easy encounter at first. Maybe they fight an encounter with some zombies that don't have that symbol and they just die easy. They die like nothing.
Yeah.
But then they have another more powerful encounter with the symbol on the monsters. And then when they get to the boss has like a giant symbol on its head. And they're like, okay, we have to figure out how to solve this before actually killing the boss.
Right, yeah.
Or something,
Yeah, like there's one with the thing on its head that's easy that like the puzzle's easy. Like, we just had to get it out of a circle or something.
Right.
And then you kill it. And then you you kill everything else, but it keeps coming back or something, or like or you can't figure out a way to kill the other ones. So you come across the boss who has all these symbols on his head, but one of them is darkened out.
Oh, there you go.
So like, okay, that like the symbol from the thing that we managed to kill is gone on that guy's head. So we just need to kill all the rest of them.
Then that's assuming that they run away instead of just trying to keep fighting the boss.
Right. Or keep fighting the other things that they couldn't kill. It's right. Or like, maybe make it easy to run away. Like with the other thing, like it stays within a certain area or something like that. Like it's part of the ritual that's keeping the boss from being killed is the fact that these are in these little rooms or something, and you got to figure out how to kill it within the room.
Yeah. No, I think that's a pretty good way to do it. And now I kind of want to make some encounters like that.
I mean,
now, I don't know 100% if this is what Fingers and Fate was asking about.
Sure.
Again, we are making it about killing them, but we're making it about you can't just walk up and roll the hit.
Right. Yeah. It's not about just like, just taking down hit points. It's about there's another mechanic involved.
Yeah. Yeah. And really you could take that and then translate it to something that isn't directly combat related.
Yeah.
You could have it be that there is a hostage, and in order to rescue the hostage, you have to, disable the mechanism over there that's lowering them into the vat of acid, and then do this other thing that's gonna, I don't know, let you like reach out to them and grab them or something. You can come up with other sort of mechanics to take part in the fight that will, just make it more interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I had to get this question on here because we've had this for so long. It's not just there are other questions we've had on for almost the entire run of our show, but this one we have tried to answer several times, and every time we just pass it up because we just don't have any good examples.
Right. Yeah.
So
well, hopefully that's
so Fingers Fate. Hopefully that was good enough. If you even remember that we're here,
or if Fingers Fate, even listens to us anymore.
Yeah.
Our next question comes from Avin Schill on Discord. Do you think that someone with unarmed defense, such as a monk or a barbarian, should retain that AC bonus even when unable to defend themselves, such as when they are grappled or knocked prone?
Yeah.
Rules as written, absolutely yes.
Yes. So as to explain what this means for anybody who maybe isn't very familiar with 5th edition D&D, but you've got your armor class, which is the number that somebody has to roll in order to hit you in combat. Normally your armor class is whatever your armor value is. So like different armors will have a different base AC, a different base AC. So like leather armor is like an 11 or a 12 or something. Full plate is like, I don't know, a 15 or 16 or 17. They changed a lot this edition.
Right. Like things like full plate are just like a flat 18 or something like that.
Yeah.
But like something like a leather armor would be like 11 plus dex.
Uh-huh.
Or like I think middle level, like, or medium is be like chainmail, where it's like you get 14 plus dex, maximum of 2 from your dex.
Sure.
But it's a set equation.
Yeah. And then certain classes, such as the monk and the barbarian, they say that if you don't wear armor, instead your AC is going to be 10, which is just kind of a base for everything. 10 plus your dexterity modifier, plus, in the case of the monk, your wisdom modifier. In the case of the barbarian, your constitution modifier.
Right.
You can't have both of those.
Right.
If you have both, you just choose one. But it is taking the place of armor. Instead of armor, you get a bonus from this ability score.
Yeah, because before, like, confusing it with 3rd edition, I understand, because like
you could stack up everything.
Yeah,
in
you
3rd
could stack
edition.
a lot of stuff. You get really high, really high in a lot of things.
Yeah.
But in this, it is not. You're not adding your wisdom to your AC. It is that your AC becomes 10 plus your dex plus your wisdom.
Right.
Yeah, you can't like stack both of these things. What is it? The turtle.
Mm-hmm.
Turtle has the shell, and the shell just gives them 17 AC. It's just they just have 17 AC. They don't get to add their dex, and they can't benefit from unarmored stuff, because that would basically mean Well, I think you could rule it as they could benefit from it, but you would only ever want to do that if that ended up being more somehow.
Yeah.
I think the idea, or it might not say that specifically, but I think there are some like natural armor ones, like the lizard folk have an AC. I think it's like
it's like 13 plus their dex or something.
13 plus their dex, and it says specifically if they're wearing armor, they can still wear the armor,
but it replaces instead of adds.
You would take whatever was higher.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, because turtles just can't wear armor, period, I think is the wording.
Yeah, so this unarmored defense that you get, mechanically it's meant to just replace armor, and there aren't really they don't really differentiate in this edition between different types. So like, there used to be, if you were caught unaware, you didn't get to add your dex bonus. You had what was called a flat-footed AC.
Yeah, so you were caught flat-footed, so you couldn't move around, so you were just basically relying on the hardness of whatever armor you were wearing.
Exactly. They also had touch AC. If someone was casting a spell on you like Shocking Grasp, they didn't have to hit you hard enough to overcome your armor. They just had to physically come in contact with you.
Right, yeah. So like you're wearing armor, but that doesn't matter because they're hitting you with a spell that's going to shock you anyway.
Exactly.
So all they're trying to do is get a grab on you, so your dex would come into play, but not your armor.
Exactly. They don't have that in this edition, which I think is a good move.
Yes.
It was real confusing. Everybody had like 4 different ways to write what their AC was at any given moment.
Yeah, like you had to have the whole equation up on top of your, on top of your character sheet, which they still, I think, have room for that in the 5th edition, just to kind of keep track of what's giving you what.
Yeah, it's just nice not to have to worry about it.
Right.
But back in those days, certain bonuses like this did apply to some, but didn't apply to others.
Yeah.
If you're a monk, for example, your wisdom bonus to AC, it did apply to your flat-footed AC because it was like a supernatural sense for what's happening.
Sure.
So even if you were unaware, you could still use your wisdom to sort of dodge out of the way. I think it also added to your touch AC. However, if you were tied up or stunned or something, if you were unable to move, you didn't get it. So it was meant to be you're just like dodging out of the way. In 5th edition, there isn't really a distinction made between those.
Right. Basically, like those exist still, but it's advantage and disadvantage. There's all the different conditions. So they're prone, people get advantage on attacking them.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that comes into play. Like there's no more flat-footed AC. Now there is people get advantage against you when you're prone or whatever. So like there's no need to keep track of those things, or like, if they're grappled or prone, they are easier to hit because
you get advantage to attack them.
There's no reason to take away their AC. They're already easier to hit.
Sure.
So,
and I mean, I suppose if you wanted to, you could house rule that, but I really don't recommend it.
I honestly, I really, really don't bringing 3.5 into 5th edition is like, it's easy to do because they are very similar in a lot of ways, but you really have to remember that the numbers are balanced for the rules that they wrote in the 5th edition books.
So what I would recommend instead is change your mindset. Don't think of it as you are supernaturally quick and you're dodging out of the way of stuff. I mean, you still can, because the advantage disadvantage mechanic does replace that to an extent. Instead, you could think of it as like if you're a monk, your training has made it so that like you have like maybe even like a supernatural luck or something.
Yeah.
When the enemy goes to attack you, they slip on something and they miss what they were about to hit. Or if you are a barbarian, heck, you're a barbarian. Describe it as you are just so strong your skin is like armor.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
It is like a natural armor in a way.
Sure. With monk, it could be like you have like a shield made of your ki energy or something like that. Like Dragon Ball Z or something like that.
Sure.
It just, your aura just deflects it.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're effectively wearing armor. It's just an armor of will.
Yeah. So
like Green Lantern.
I suppose.
Yeah.
So you could, if you need to make a change, I recommend change how you think of it, change how it's described.
Yeah.
Mechanically, just leave it the way it is. It is balanced around what it is now, and there are other mechanics in place to make up for that.
Use advantage and disadvantage for things that like for stuff like this. That is why the advantage disadvantage is just so perfect, because it's like if you're not sure if that should be harder, just give them disadvantage. It's like, well, it's like, I don't know what penalty to give them. Like, okay, just throw disadvantage on there. It's like, it seems too simplistic and it seems unrealistic in some cases to just whatever, but it just makes the game so much smoother.
Yeah. And really, I mean, I hope everybody agrees that is the important thing, is just to make the game run
and have fun.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our normal questions today, but let's go ahead and talk about our social media discussion questions. So the social media discussion question for last week was playing during the day versus playing at night. Which do you prefer and why? And I think you and I agreed on this, Jeff.
Daytime,
yeah. Like, I mean, I always end up playing at night, but
yeah, that's the easiest time to play in most cases. But like, you know, if I got to choose, I'd say daytime.
Yeah. So we got a few responses this week. I'm going to try to limit it mostly to like new people, like people who we don't talk about every week, I guess. Yeah. So on Facebook, we've got Dan W says, day for sure. I play a human druid, so at night I can't bloody see.
Wait, what?
I think he might have been taking that in character. Maybe that was intentional. I don't know.
Or they're just, no, he's got a smiley face. He's just joking.
Gotcha. Sean M says, evenings are great for weekly games. I've done Tuesday evenings on the reg. Also, I've run all day games for the once a month crowd. So Sundays noon to 9 sort of thing. The day games take longer to sort out. So yeah, I agree. Apparently there's a website, whenisgood.com is
what?
A website.
When is good?
Sorry, I'm clicking on it right now. Okay, that's not English. I don't know what that is. I think it's a website for coordinating something. I don't know.
Or he says I think.com, so maybe it's not.
I don't know.
Maybe that was the wrong one.
Maybe that was the wrong one. Anyway, so yeah, like there are weekly games. Yeah, I think evenings are probably better. All day games usually tend to go pretty late. I think, you know, we've all taken part in some of those before. John G says night because I work third shift and sleep during the day.
Sure.
Yep. Thumbs up for me. I mean, I know exactly what that's like. I'll say our patron Jom says, I say closer to whenever we are all awake is best. And yeah, sure. I mean, that's really the theme with a lot of these, is that whenever everybody's available is when you play.
Yeah, exactly.
In the, you know, if you had like a perfect world or something, if there was a way that you could choose a time that was perfect for you and then everybody else would be able to accommodate it.
Yeah.
You know, day would ideally be better, but
yeah,
who knows?
I don't know, bring coffee and donuts to a D&D session, you know.
Man, that sounds awesome.
Or like an early morning D&D session, just like you're done by like, you know, early afternoon.
Yeah, man, that blows my mind. Vincent Takeda on Reddit says, both. We don't have a choice. Even if we start when it's light out, our sessions inevitably last until well after the sun has set.
Sure. Yeah.
Definitely. 00 Jiminy Cricket says, my favorite time is a summer Sunday around 1 or 2 in the afternoon and at a backyard patio.
Oh.
By early afternoon, everyone has had a few good hours in the morning to be productive, and it's perfect for a mid-game, late lunch, or early dinner. Enjoying a lazy summer afternoon with friends is unbeatable in my book. Yeah. That has got to be one of the smoothest and nicest Reddit posts I've ever seen. I agree with every word in there. That just sounds so good. Oh my goodness.
I mean, did you upvote it?
I did. I believe I upvoted all these.
Good.
And Static Flyer says, later in the day, it naturally cuts off if it's a mediocre session, but a really good session will have players sticking around later, assuming nobody has a graveyard shift.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, yeah, like there's never been a time where I've been like, whoa, guys, I'm enjoying this game, but I'm going to go home and have dinner. No, that doesn't happen. But, you know, again, this is like if you had like the perfect, if you could set the time however you want it to be, you know.
Yeah, that's why you order pizza. You're like, well, you know, I want to keep playing, but we got to eat something. All right, somebody order pizza so we can just have it brought to us.
Yeah. And then we just got a couple on Discord. Adam B says, we start during the day as everyone has more energy and we can break for a meal we have all jointly made before continuing. So, yeah, that's cool, especially if everybody comes in with the assumption that like we're going to break for a meal at this time.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then Damien, he actually replied to this because I'm sorry, this was actually this question was actually submitted by one of our listeners on Discord.
Oh, that's right.
He submitted it as a normal question, but I figured like our answers are probably going to be really quick, and I would rather see what other people have to say.
Sure.
So Damien from Adventures in Aurelia, he gave a different answer, which it's a couple clicks away, but I don't feel like looking it up right now. But he says he's redoing his answer. They play at night because that's when people have time available. His wife and he have a kid that is sometimes home and sometimes stays with someone overnight, but is always closer to or after bedtime. So Damien also works nights, so that's his natural schedule. And one of their players started an evening job. So yeah, I definitely acknowledge that you play with whatever you can get.
Yeah.
But then he does say his preference would be earlier. They're usually 9 to 12, but he would prefer maybe 6 to 9 or 6 to 10. Energy definitely starts to fall for some people toward the end of session, depending on how the day itself went.
True. Yeah.
Yep. So we got a couple more, but I think that's enough that we'll read on the air. We also didn't get any on Twitter, so that's fine, I guess. So that was the question for last week. So our question for this week is going to be maybe an unconventional one.
Okay.
How did your character get that scar? Have you ever played a character that had a noteworthy scar, Jeff?
I did.
Okay. Well, tell us about it.
Okay, I played a character. His name was Elijah.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Sorry, go on.
And he had a scar on his right arm he received from a fight with his father.
Yeah.
His father used a spike chain, disarmed him, and almost disarmed him.
Yeah.
So like he had a very intricate scar from
like a nasty,
real
thing,
nasty. Yeah. There was a character in a Tekken game. I think it was Tekken 4, maybe. I don't know. There was some character who had like a really nasty looking scar. I'm like, yeah, that's a cool looking scar. So I was like, yeah, all right. So he got a spike chain wrapped around his arm, and then he yanked it back and pulled the weapon away, but also took a bunch of his arm away too. So he had like a real nasty scar on his arm.
And then if I recall, the disagreement between the two of them was about like his father wanted. What was it that his father wanted him to be like a fighter, or am I? Maybe I'm making that more wholesome than it was.
I can't quite remember what the argument was about, but it was a disagreement. Between father and son or something like that.
And then your character either was already or eventually became a warlock.
Yeah.
And then like your power kind of manifested from the scar, right? Yeah. Sort of similar, not really that similar, I guess. I had a character, I've talked about him before, Artemis Red Sleeves. He received a scar when he died.
Oh, sure.
He was killed by being shot in the face with an Eldritch Blast from a necromancer. He was brought back, but he still had this like horrible, jagged, nasty scar going down his face. And I decided that in that campaign, his scar, kind of like Harry Potter, he could sort of feel what the guy that caused it was feeling. He could tell when the bad guy was nearby. However, it came at a cost, and that was that he was inherently vulnerable to that. It's like if that bad guy were to attack him again, the bad guy would have the equivalent of having advantage against him anytime.
Yeah.
So like he had this connection to the bad guy and he could sort of sense stuff, but if he ever came face to face with that bad guy, the bad guy would be very, very deadly to him because of just this magical connection between the two of them.
Cool.
So yeah, so hopefully our listeners are able to get some interesting answers to that. I thought that would be an interesting question to ask. I always like stuff that I can ask like in character, like what would your character do? How did your character do this? And so on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good like party building exercise. Cool. is doing, like have a bunch of questions that you're like each of your players is going to ask each other in character, and you sort of do it like you do it out of the timeline of you're not in the moment asking that. You're just like, it's just sort of like a what if or never have I ever sort of sort of game to play among characters just to kind of get to know each other.
All right. So yeah, check those out on Facebook, Twitter, Discord, and Reddit. Let us know what your answers are, and they might end up on the show. So I think we should let's take a deep breath. Let's relax. Let's remember those people who have come before us and fought and given their lives to make the world a better place as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. And this next one was submitted on Reddit by Reddit user Bugutowski. Bugutowski. BGU-towski.
Yep.
I was playing Dread. And for anybody who isn't familiar with Dread, it's a role-playing game where I think you have a Jenga tower, and then in order to like succeed at checks or whatever, you have to like successfully take out bricks from the Jenga tower without knocking it over.
So instead of rolling a die to see if you can succeed, you play Jenga to
exactly.
See if you
and so like if you're nervous or if you're scared or something, it's going to make it harder for you to do that.
Sure.
So they're playing Dread, and one character needed to set the self-destruct sequence. I asked the engineer to make a pull from the Jenga tower. He failed, the tower fell, and he died. So that left the task of setting the self-destruct sequence up to the non-technical minded crew members. The tower had just reset, so the Jenga tower only had about 6 blocks pulled and was in no danger of falling. Famous last words, am I right? I asked my group to collectively make 3 pulls to finish the job. The elderly medic character decided this was easy and pulled 2 blocks from the same row. For anybody who's played Jenga, that's a bad move. Feeling particularly cocky. His character had a heart attack and died right there in the engine room.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah. So,
let's...
yeah, so don't get cocky, everybody.
Right. Yeah, don't get cocky playing a game of Jenga. What are you
exactly,
crazy?
Exactly. Yeah, so I guess let's raise a glass in memory of the cocky medic with a bum ticker. Clink. All right, well, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict, or our Discord, which you can find on Reddit or Facebook, for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games, and we will be having a live stream on twitch.tv/FriendQuestStream on October 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we will be streaming Red Dead Redemption 2. So we hope to see some of you there, and if you can't make it, we'll be putting it up on YouTube, so we hope you enjoy it.
Yes. And you can check out a side podcast that I started called the Arcade Memories Podcast on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud. Or if you have stories you want to submit to me so that I can put them in the next episode, you can send those to arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you will get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So, Jeff, until next time...
Hold on, I'm going to pull this...
Oh, Jenga. You're dead.
Bye, everybody.